Hi, my name is Winslaya, and welcome to my video going over the 37th dev diary for Age of Wonders 4. This is going over the hero rework, and I did just take a quick glance at everything that we have here, and I have to say this seems like probably the most detailed, most expansive dev diary that we've gotten. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try and go over these in as much detail as possible without missing any of the important things, but I think in the interest of time, I won't go over like every little word and every little screenshot that we have here. So without further ado, let's start up at the very top here with this behemoth, this behemoth image that Voxel Thomas was talking about in the first little introduction. And this is basically the design document that he used to help him rework the hero skills. I think there's some stuff in here from like the old skills. The skill graveyard is over here. I put this in a separate document so I could zoom in even further. The old skills I think went over here so that he could rework them into other things. This is old defender, old warrior. This is stuff that gets zoomed in on other screenshots later. It's kind of grainy right here. Feudal needed to be addressed. There's something about dragons down here, sovereigns over here. Same cultures only have a couple archetypes was a problem that he was considering. This is like the ruler types, and origins are over here, culture skills are over here. As you can see, that it seems like they put a lot of information in one place to make it easy to visually compare, and it looks like they did a really good job with the rework. It looks really interesting, and I can't wait to play on it. So they found that a lot of people were having similar problems with the old version of Heroes. They had observed some stuff internally, and they had seen a lot of people saying the same stuff online about like the heroes all feel the same because they could also swap out any weapon for any other weapon. They really lacked identity. The skills weren't considered very balanced. People really liked the warfare stuff. They didn't really love the battle mage, and they thought support was really good in certain situations. I personally thought battle mage was pretty good if you leaned into it in the right ways, but I do agree, generally speaking, warfare and killing momentum were incredibly powerful. Signature skills were random, which made it hard to build a character. The a lot of the time people would take the choice based off the affinity that they were trying to get, so it just wasn't really for the skill, and so they wanted to add more to those choices to give you more interesting choices that people actually want. And also, I think it's not random now. You can actually plan to go towards something and know you're going to get it when you get to that signature skill unlock. Hero stacking was something people were doing a lot, that's putting them all in the same stack. And I think one of the main ideas behind heroes is they're supposed to be the leaders of other units. So maybe one per 6 units would make a lot of sense. Leading a stack of units makes a lot of sense for the heroes. And then for flavor, they were saying that their identity was based entirely off of one background trait. Things like not experienced leader. There was, oh boy, I can't think of any right now, but there's little things that would change them. And now there's a couple different ways they can have unique ways to build out their identity or their growth. There's the governance, there's the hero development, and then I think they said narrative is the third one. Yeah, hero advancement, governance, and narrative were different ways they tried to give them more identity. So for hero advancements, now we have different classes that you can go down. You have your origin, you have your class, and you have signature skills to basically give you a lot of identity when it comes to the way the hero grows over the match. Origin, yeah, where they come from, mortal champion, dragon lord, those types of things. A class would express different heroes' talents. Signature skills, yeah, we've covered this already briefly. They're gonna not give you affinity points now, but they're a little bit easier to predict. Governance is the ambition renown system that they've covered in, I think, some of the dev streams, but we haven't seen, I think, in any of the dev diaries. So this is something that looks really interesting, and I want to get my hands on the actual game so I can look at all of these ambitions and the different governance bonuses to compare them against one another. But right now, we don't know more than a few that they've shown off in stream. The narrative is, I think, events. That would make a lot of sense, right? You can get unique hero skills when their major ambition is complete. Okay, so maybe I'm missing something, but I I would imagine narratives could come from events too. What is a hero now? The hero is their class, their origin, their signature skills. The classes are things like Defender, Warrior, Mage, Ritualist, and Ranger. This guy is purely offensive. This guy's support. This guy is mostly damage. This guy is damage, and this guy's defensive. The Mortal Champion, Wizard Kings, Dragon Lords, and Eldritch Sovereigns were specialized to do different things. Mortal Champions should be better at leading armies. Wizard Kings should be better at spellcasting. Dragon Lords are good at unique combat skills, and Eldritch Sovereigns specialize in strategic rituals and mind control. Support skills were kind of divided up a bit differently depending on which ruler type you take. The Dragon Lords get aspects, transformations, breath, and I think some Elder thing, whereas the Eldritch Sovereigns they'll get something similar. And I don't know if I don't think we've seen that, so they may actually tell us more about that here. Eldritch Sovereigns, they retain their signature skills as they were, though they also no longer grant affinity. So it just, I think, yeah, like the chaos pulse and that stuff is unchanged, but now you just don't get the affinity. But yeah, I think champions and wizard kings get similar choices for their signature skills. Now we've got more information about the different classes. So they're supposed to fit 2 roles here. It says right here that each of the classes is supposed to do one of 2 different things. You can either go down the left side or the right side, or I think the middle is usually the general stat boosts. And one of the first things they designed was I think is the defender here. Dorky fantasies and stuff like that. Yeah, shock unit. I remember a knight would probably be a shock unit. So if you're gonna build one side to be shock focused, the other one should be more knight like abilities and effects, while also accounting for charging barbarians with a great axe. The defender is not that shock unit. The defender is a polearm and a shield unit. They're supposed to have high defense, high health, and be good at retaliating and defending others. No ranged weapons, low damage output, and yeah, polearm one-handed weapons are its weapon choices. They have a lot of skills that were in the game beforehand that have been reused and tweaked a little bit. And like the classes that they divided into 3 sections, yeah, they divided into 3 sections where you can go down the left side or the right side. There's an infantry side and a shield side for the defender. This is the way the defender used to work. But then I guess they changed things a little bit, and there's a lot of information here. This is something about leaden blows, retaliator, and defense training, resistance, things like that. I'm sure he spells out the differences between the old defender and the one at the bottom in the text here. So let's just take a second to read them. The first iteration of the skill tree, the central column was primarily stat improvements, while the sides had all the good stuff. The design worked as intended, improved the concept work, but lacked opportunity for creativity. Okay, so they added more abilities to be creative. I'm not sure what that means exactly. They found that the columns weren't helping a lot, so this must be where you can go down different paths and kind of mix and match the effects on different skills, which is cool. I think we've seen a bit of that in the streams. So after that, you had to go ahead and defender with the aim improving options, which allow for much more creative use of the skills. This is the one they came up with. More crossover. Yeah, there's these little paths that go in between the left and the right, and that is more flexible than what they had in the initial pass. It was just kind of like 1, 2, and 3 paths, whereas now it's just kind of bouncing back and forth, kind of mixing the infantry, shield, and core stuff. I'm sure there's things in here we never got to see, like tireless retaliator seems like a really good thing. Offensive something or other from one of the tomes is down here. Brace defense, entering defense mode makes you get charge resistance. That must be this. I'm not sure if you want something here. Pure defense when entering defense mode. This gives adjacent friendly units the ability to dispel 1 negative aspects. Wow, that's really good. I'm sure there's a lot in here. Entering defense mode gives you 2 grace. What? Wow, wow. Yeah, you gotta you can't combine this on every weapon type. That wouldn't be quite fair, I think, because the charge weapons would benefit more from infinite retaliations than a polearm would. The Dragon Lord took these things. Is that what they're saying? They took a web of chaos and um, added active abilities, one for each type of defender. What does that mean again? Oh, these are the active things. The ones that are lighter or not yellow, those are things that can be activated. I think that's what he's talking about in the web. Pushing attack for defenders is that focus on damage with specialization to make it more defensive for those who want to be more defensive, or offensive if you want to be more offensive. There's a taunt in here, and I think we're ready to move on to the warrior, which is a offensively focused physical unit. It does shock or fighter roles basically, does high damage, high mobility, individual unit power, no range attack, low defense and resistance, and no support abilities. They're supposed to use great weapons, polearms, one-handed melee weapons, and shields. So they cover a lot of different themes. They're probably one of the more general ones. This should be like a noble knight or an unstoppable barbarian, or I guess even like something else like a samurai probably, right? Whereas is subdivided into shock trooper and berserker. So he is the shock unit that they mentioned earlier. The defender is not the main shock unit here. This guy is the one that's supposed to take on that role, and then berserk is not just about charging, it's about keeping your guy on the battlefield through things like steadfast, and there's this berserk modifier that you can get. Does it show it off here? Critical momentum, do crit damage. On crit, you get to heal and you get hasten. I think that was in the ranger tree, but is this the old one? Yeah, this is the old warrior, so they may have moved that around. Undying warrior gives the unit resurgence, and I believe you've seen a lot of these other things actually in stream, so we're not going to spend a lot of time looking at this. Very similar to that of the first defender. Being designed second, they were able to learn some things from how they did things with the defender. They made it so that the columns were less like individual and more able to mix with each other. This tree too got a big pass once others were completed, adding a few more active skills and rearranging it significantly. So a lot of the things were passive until the more recent versions of the classes. Then they give them the more active abilities and stuff like that. What do you see down here? War Seeker, Will Breaker, Graceful Charge, and Brutal Parry. I think we've seen at least Brutal Parry in the streams. Will Breaker is different. It gives Weakened and Remorse, and then Killing Momentum's at the bottom of this tree. So not everybody's going to get access to Killing Momentum from what I can tell, but the Warriors class can get to it if they go down their whole path. Now we're cooking with spaghetti. Okay, more interconnectivity and more variety as a result. I remember reading this. They said they added something to the wire to give it a little bit more flash, and this reminds me of sprint. It gives you the ability to move a little bit further. You get slippery, and you get a little bit of HP. This ability is reusable after each kill is different and really interesting, because that means that you're going to be able to sprint relatively frequently, and if you can get a kill, you can then sprint uh, if you get a kill that gives you your actions back with like killing momentum, then you can use second win again to heal again and move again, and maybe get an attack in that you otherwise wouldn't have been able to in the previous versions of the game. What else can we say here? Yeah, slippery's not bad because it lets you move out of the enemy range, and yeah, the healing keeps them in the fight a little bit longer. The attempt to tackle hero skill ability bloat is clearly exemplified by the next class, the mage. I didn't read that earlier. That's good. All right, so mages are going to be all about doing damage, area effect, range, and affliction. No melee, low defense and health. They use orbs and staves. All right, so mage came third, more specific content, and it needs to be basically something that is either a warlock or a devastator. With the devastator, we're focusing on AoE magic abilities, and I'm not sure what the warlock does. Probably more like status effects and things like that. Afflictions, right? Um, this is the only version of the mage that they show here. The mage skill tree is built around two defining skills: evocation and curse, with specialization building upon those skills. Evocations were in the game before. Separate abilities like lightning evocation, I think, was one of them. Was there a burning one as well? Something else. Now each hero can choose between fire, area of effect evocation, or chain lightning, and then they can change the focus on damage, disruption, or even spreading like wildfire. The curse ability is at its base a single target ability that causes frost damage, but it can be built into a more powerful frost cure or as a plague infecting AoE. I'm not sure if I understand that. This is the image where it would be the curse in here. About disease, weaken, and disruption being applied through curse. Okay, and then we have withering plague as something that you can do later on. Range 3, once per combat, they get decayed and a chance to stun. Wow, mass curse does an AoE. Frost curse has a 120% chance to freeze. Okay, that's not bad at all. So the Ritualist is next. The Ritualist is a support that can summon and also heal. They have no melee, they have weak defenses and low damage. They use stabs and orbs, kind of like the Mage, but this one feels a very different role in the options for your army, basically. The final in-game version of the Ritualist tree is this, it looks like. The particular hero focusing on area effect and a druidic theme. They are unique class, wide set of themes and mechanics. They have, yeah, healing and support as their main things. The Ritualist is the most ability heavy of all the classes. They have the most active little abilities in the tree. I see that now. Where I lost my place. Restore is the core of the class, letting it heal a lot of guys and remove their stats effects. And then additionally, this class can lean into two themes such as druidry, conjuring, wildgrowth. We did see that in one of the previous dev streams. I remember this thing looks really cool. Summoning through the spirit summons and necromancy is another path. So there's like 4 little branches here. What do we have in the image? The Ritualist tree and design is, note, it's segmented. It's more segmented than the others, and there's less crossover, I think. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense based off of what they said. There's more options here and less options for crossover because of those options. The Ranger is an offensively focused ranged unit, and it can be a skirmisher. Those are the 2 rules. It's either like a normal ranged archer or a skirmisher that might have some melee attached to it. They're supposed to be good at getting critical strikes and very versatile. They have weak defenses and they lack resistance, but maybe not defense. They use ranged weapons and dual skirmisher weapons. Alright, so this is the in-game version of the tree, it looks like. Using snapshot as an opener before diving into the enemy is something that a skirmisher might be able to do. And then it was a pain to design apparently, because I don't think there was anything for skirmishers beforehand, so they had to come up with new stuff. That's the Ranger class had to be that first iteration. The Ranger class has, similar to the Mage, a choice of defining abilities on the left, and scatter shot gives a area effect, and then there's snapshot, and I think true shot was the other one that we got to see in one of the previous things. Another cool thing that they have mentioned before is that they're adding a new type of skirmisher weapon other than the sword and pistol. Now we're going to have like sword and crossbows. I think that appeared in the stream from today too, which I'll cover more on Tuesday, so keep an eye out for that video. But yeah, let's see, is there anything else in the Ranger class that we haven't seen before? There's probably some good stuff at the bottom. Go for the kill we may have seen, and something about focus gives you extra damage. I can't read that, it's too small. We can move on from here. We're getting pretty close to 20 minutes, so I want to try to wrap this up soon. We have champions, which are one of the origins you can choose, and they did talk a little bit about them being more of supporting the army focused. They in here mentioned that they get extra experience themselves. The mortal champions get more experience instead of the non-hero units, which is how it used to work. Let's see, what else did they say here? I actually didn't read this on. They're basically commanders. They were a little bit unfocused. Now they start with the command ability, which is like spur to action. That's really interesting that it's something you can get early, because spur to action used to be something you could get around level 7 or 8. This ability lets them order another unit to move again at the expense of their own movement and can be upgraded. Yeah, it's a pretty good support skill. Besides the command ability, the champions have access to other skills which boost the army both tactically and strategically. Champions as heroes. All heroes found in the game that do not come with the Pantheon are mortal champions. So they get this stuff right here. This rework will set them apart with their own ruler counterparts. One notable lacking is lacking access to the command skill. Regardless, they can still specialize army leadership as their class is the same. So I don't think they'll have the second win thing on the right if I'm reading this correctly, but maybe I'm wrong. Wizard Kings are going to be different. They now get mana from conduits instead of just getting a little bit more mana on all of their cities. Just as champion looked less and less appealing as the game grew, the Wizard King similarly had some problems. It just became less interesting. Overchannel was an iconic ability, but it was kind of almost too good for a lot of different reasons. So they I think made it so that Overchannel has been reworked into the channeling ritual. It works like command. It is a starting ability that can be specialized into to be quickened, but only usable once per combat, or a defensive ritual which heals the user and lets them enter defense mode. A potential combo with defender or ritual classes. Oh, interesting. Yeah, they're recommending that defender Wizard King would actually work pretty well. Wizard King tree looks like this. They get things that give them more casting points, and now they don't automatically get more casting points for leveling up, which is pretty cool, or it was very strong. Um, the last thing they have here is that the Wizard King gains strength as spells are cast and add an overcharge effect to the particular spells when channeling ritual is used. Okay, that sounds pretty good. So that must be things you can pick later on. Dragon Lords are something that I've talked about before in some previous videos, so we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about it here, but they changed a lot here. The level 4 stuff that you get for signature skills is different. The level 8 stuff you get from signature skills is different. Same with the level 12 and the level 16. Now it's aspects at level 4, um, transformations at level 8, breath things at level 12, and elder things at level 16. I haven't read much about the elder stuff, so let's just take a second to see what this says. Your stack bonuses, leaving the dragon to be on par with heroes who have gained access to better armor. Interesting enough, each affinity option here grants the Dragon Lord a unique effect, like Wind Barrier, or Elder Chaos gives you damage bonus that grows each time you kill an enemy. They did show that off previously. The Dragon Claws are more interesting now. Now you have 3 variations instead of 1 that's just offensively focused. You have the Armored Claws, which are defensive, and the War Claws, which allow you to charge into enemies. So I guess slightly even more offensively focused than the repeating attacks, because you can run to the edge of your movement range and do a lot of damage, which means the AI will probably do that. Eldritch Sovereigns are, I think they said, pretty similar to how they were in the previous versions of the games. Their signature skills work the same way, and they can get classes like everyone else. We haven't seen the stuff they get to pick on the left yet, have we? Um, well, there's a few things in here, right? Yeah, no, they're kind of moved on to signature skills. So signature skills are very different. Now they have affinity requirements. If you want to get to the initiate of chaos, you're going to need one affinity, one chaos affinity, and if you want to get to the next level of things, the adept of chaos, then I think you need 4. They should say that here. At level 4, level 8, they may choose initiate dedications or any adept level dedications the Empire has enough affinity for. At 12, master level or lower can be chosen, and lastly, at level 16, Paragon or any other level can be picked. Okay, you can. This allows for mixing between multiple affinities. If you build that uses 2 different affinity mechanics that you want to lean into, you can choose a hero with 2 initiate dedications, giving them access to relevant skills. Right, so you can go with a dedication here for something and a dedication to something else later on. Does this say 4? I think it does say. Yeah, you need 4 affinity to get to the adept of chaos, and then to get to Paragon, I think you'd need more than 10 or so. I don't know the exact number. They may actually say that here. There's a little bit more that they said about this. Affinity dedications are free. They kind of just give you things that make your ability to be a army leader better, whereas the things that you get in the dedications, the 2 options, they're gonna take hero skills. Additional hero skills based on the army dedication. Yeah, you get 2 additional hero skills you can choose between. Initiate nature, for example, gives you blight strikes and pack leader. Affinity dedications are divided into 4 levels. The Initiate, Adept, Master, and Paragon. I've already mentioned this a little bit. Yeah, Initiate grants access to support stuff. Adept is usually more individual. Master skills are usually active abilities, and Paragons are usually very unique in several different ways. While the first levels grant the same stacking bonus to the army, the Paragon dedications give their own unique army boost. Paragon of Order, for example, grants all army, grants all units in the army resurgence, letting them all become immortal martyrs for the cause. That's really good. It's really, really good. You can get Eternal One, which says when Sierra is killed in battle after 2 turns, they come back to life. Does not function if all our units are dead. Can only be used any number of times. What does any number of times mean? Not too sure, so we're going to move on. The next thing I have here is Tome Hero Skills. Former tomes granted hero skills, many got reused, some did not make it. There are more difficult, notably Cleansing Flame Herald was part of the Tome of Cleansing Flame. This instead is a passive gained when the tome is unlocked, which should feel much nicer. So some of the things that were moved out of the tomes were moved into signature skills, and not all of them were. Some of them were kind of reworked. The art of the hero rework was to make it easier so that you can tell what the icons mean at a glance. So now I think like there's a lot of shields in the tree that have different numbers that indicate if you're going to get more defense or resistance from things like that. All right, so this is just a short section from some other 2 people. Yeah, Ella and Anna, who worked on the art of the hero rework, and I think it is a lot clearer with what they did. What do we have here? I'm not going to dive too much into this. It must have been their first pass at it or something like that. Note that the mock-ups, yeah, this is mock-up. Did not consider changing fundamental, did not change things too much. We didn't like the UI visually, but the feedback kept coming in that they feel samey, lacking identity. So he started changing things, and so they did the visual thing. Ultimately became pride and joy of all those who worked on it. So let's catch up on this interface. So that where do we start off? All right, this is in there. This is in that big behemoth image. This is the origins to 24 for the dragon, 17 for the sovereign, 6 cultural things. That's them being connected like that. Archetypes is 20. Affinity is 2 per tier. 1, 2, 3, 4. Each tier is compromised different skills. Chaos Disciple, 3 options, which are Chaos 1, Chaos Tier 1 tome skills. So they did change it down to 2, but it looks like this is what they were originally thinking, and then they came up with something that looked more like this, where I was explained to him why that wouldn't explained to him yeah, okay, did some more mock-ups, and then they came to this, which is starting to look more and more like what we're actually getting in the Tiger update and the Ways of War. All right, so this mock-up where all the trees presented in one interface, similar to how the final in-game version was set up. As you can probably tell from the final result, we chose the latter in order to minimize clicking between different tabs. Yes, that's a good thing. As a disclaimer, I'm able to do mock-ups pretty easily and freely in Photoshop. Getting them in-game is very different. I agree. That makes sense. I mean, that would make sense to me because you would actually have to do some coding versus just putting together some lines or some images together on Photoshop would not be that tricky to do. We've added functionality to the exclusive skills, participated in international. No, don't do that. They reworked all these icons. Look at how many icons we have now. Wow, that's a lot of different icons. I love it. Governance and renown. Wow, we haven't even covered governance and renown in here yet. This is something that I mentioned earlier, and this will make your heroes have more identity. When you are at the beginning of the game, I think you can choose an ambition for your ruler. This is the ruler, right? No, he's an agricultural governor. I think this is a hero, if I am understanding this correctly. So these guys can have things like agricultural governor, industrial governor, as well as different ambitions, which will help them build renown to get to these bonuses. It's kind of like getting experience and leveling up your guy, but it's for governing. It's like governing experience, which they call renown, I think. Believe that's pretty much everything that they're getting at here. Governance has been a bit messy. They wanted it to basically each affinity point a hero had granted a little bit of extra stuff. So that back. All right. Yeah, I think I just heard the headset cut out for a second. So that's why I'm going a little quick. If there's no noise for 30 minutes or so, it cuts out. There's a shiny new governor section. in here, which you can look at your different options you can choose between. I think there's more information there. The ambitions are, yeah, this is the thing that you get to pick at the beginning of the game, and there's a lot of ambitions. Each ambition will give you rewards towards the renown track and their their governance type. The minor ambitions are repeatable. The major ambitions give you something and are harder to achieve. This one says you get aggressive tactician. This one up here says, I thought there was one that said something about what you could get from a ambition, but no, they just had the governance stuff above. The hero has managed to complete her major ambition, giving her a unique trait to boost her stuff. Elites. This thing is saying the major ambition is that when you reach level 12, you get Ruler's Retinue and 200 Renown, which will help you get better stuff off of the Governance trait. And it's pretty easy to fight alongside the Rulers. You can see they did this, I think, 17 times is what that's saying. And then, yeah, this is the outro, just saying that they put a lot of time and effort into this, as we can clearly see. And that's everything I have to say about this one. I'll see you around. Have a good one.